Hi everybody. So, time for another midweek chat here around the shores of the mighty Chippewa. It's really, I wish you could have a 360. Maybe when I close I'll remember to show you the whole river, but it's certainly been higher. It's not like a flood stage or anything, but it's high. You see the water raging out of those gates of the dam there. Often those gates are all just closed, but when the water's high they open up, and I guess some of them are still closed, but they opened up more than half of them. So, and get to hear the rushing waters. Yeah, I'll be quiet for a second here, take it in. Get a little drink here. Isn't that beautiful sound? My day got off with a bang today because I had forgotten to do the column for the bulletin this weekend. It's always due Wednesday morning, first thing. And Christine was kind enough to call me and say, I don't think you did your bulletin. So I shut up and wrote a draft. And anyway, so that's good. I got off and running. And we're going to have a ham today. My brother gave me a Christmas ham quite a while ago, like at Christmas. But it was in good packaging. But it's taking up a lot of space in our staff freezer. So we're going to have it today with some eggs. That'll be good. Patrice is going to see to while I'm doing this, the final preparations. Had a little accident with the ham yesterday. I don't know what I was thinking. I know how to work with the microwave and what not to do. And so I put it in thaw because it was solid frozen. And then went out to say hi to the children who are at recess. It's always fun. The little ones like to give me hugs and everything. That's a good use of time, I think. And anyway, I must have thought it was plastic around because it wasn't a heavy foil, but it was a metallic wrap. And so you can't put metal in a microwave, right? And so they started smelling smoke while I was out having a good time with the school children. They smelled smoke, and they turned it off, and now it doesn't work anymore. So anyway, that's too bad. Sorry, we're going to need a new microwave oven for the office. Darn it. So that's the main parish news. No, just kidding. I got a bunch of parish news, and of course we want to talk about Pope Francis and some different things. Parish news. So the Walk for Virtues is coming up this Friday. So the children raise money. Friends and family and anyone who hears about it can pledge, and they walk. This year I think they're walking just kind of around the track at Regis High School, the nice new track they got a couple years ago. Then they'll have pizza. There's an all-system mass tomorrow, but it's right same time as our Friday Mass, so I won't be at Mass, but I'll show up for the pizza and maybe walk a lap with some of the children. So that's a good deal. I think what are they gonna use? Was it for curtains? They always do something, kind of a wish list for school, and then they're able to fund those projects with Walk for Virtues money. So thanks to our teachers and our principal, Hannah, for driving the school spirit and driving the school making it all work with love and commitment, very much so. Why do I have bake sale this weekend? Because it's not. What is this? That's last week. Well, we do have the Walk for Virtues this Friday, but those were last week's notes. There's no bake sale this weekend. Last weekend, thanks for the women from PCCW running that bake sale. I'll get back with the program next fall, make my bread. 2 times in a row I didn't make any bread for the bake sale, which I said I would do after they bought me that oven 10 years ago. So anyway, I don't want to pander, but maybe we need that microwave oven now. But let's see. Walk for Virtues, RE. So religious education, pretty much done now. The Wednesday evening classes, the confirmation group meets tonight yet in preparation for their confirmation, which I'll talk about in a sec. I guess I could talk about it now. So We lost our great confirmation director Ashley last year, but then Nick took over. I think in the bulletin I wrote that Kelly did, because Kelly does so much in that program. I think the last time I walked through the confirmation class, during a class, Kelly was teaching it. So I thought it's something switched in my head, like Kelly was their main confirmation teacher this year. But it's Nick. It's our Nick Boss, who's also our music director. And thanks Nick, thanks Kelly, thanks parents for making that work. We'll have our confirmation happen on Friday, May 9th. So at the end of this coming week. I got to say I've been impressed. I have these individual conversations with each candidate. Most of them do make the appointment and show up, so I get a good sense of who they are. Or I wouldn't say a good sense, but a little sense. My first year here, I didn't know any of them. All these confirmations happened. I didn't know a single one of them, and I thought, this has to stop. So part of the confirmation program is to meet with me, and we talk a little bit about faith and prayer, their lives, what's hard. Maybe it's just hard to talk about what's really hard in their lives. But the most common answer to what's difficult in your life right now, it's balancing school and trying to get everything done, get the homework done, getting the grades. I guess it's not surprising, They're not necessarily going to be forthcoming about something that's happening in their family that's hard or something. Occasionally, something that'll come up. Give them the opportunity anyway. But they all seem to have a pretty good, well, I don't know all, but they seem to have a sense that God is real, that when they pray, God is there and God listens to them, which I'm glad about. And I always tell them this isn't a test. If you really struggle with knowing God or knowing God is there, believing in God, that's A-OK. We just had our gospel, St. Thomas the Apostle, his story of not believing until he sees, and he comes to the greatest faith after his time of questioning, right? He says, my Lord and my God. So it's very interesting how people come to faith or keep the faith or lose the faith. And faith and belief, I don't even think they're the same thing. You can believe in God and still have a pretty faithful life. Sometimes people, they don't believe in God because the God that they think they don't believe in is something that I don't really believe in either, like sort of a master tinker maker up in heaven who's controlling everything and makes bad things happen to good people, and punishes the sinner, and there's lots of conceptions of God that are and a lot of religious people kind of put out there. A God of violence, he's on our side, he wants us to win the war and cream the other side, and that's not really or that creates a kind of a band of followers that condemns half of humanity, and I guess when I figured out, when Father Karate comes for his missions, he always talks about, and Father or Bob Martin when he was here, or Pam, anybody, we had really good mission presenters that talk about God is love, so when we suffer and we're hurting, it's God who's with us and helps us. It's not God who's like punishing us. Anyway, you get the idea. There's all different conceptions of God, and a lot of times gods that atheists maybe reject, I would say, that's not how I think God is either, So hopefully we come together. If we don't believe the same things, we can come together in a life of commitment and care for humanity. I had this memorial service for the former superintendent of Eau Claire Public Schools, Marv Lansing, and he was very open and honest that he wasn't really, I guess you'd say maybe agnostic, or certainly not a religious person, and yet all the good that he did in the world, I mean, he was, I felt like with him in life, even though we didn't have the same beliefs, and so that was a big thrust of Pope Francis's preaching too. We can work. Hey, say we don't believe in the same things. Can we still work at a soup kitchen and feed the hungry and shelter the homeless together? Good, let's do that. So anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but so that confirmation's coming up, and rice bowls. Bring your rice bowls. I had a rice bowl on my table. I didn't put coins and bills in it like maybe the instructions were, but at the end of it all, I wrote a check things that I thought I gave up in a little extra for Catholic Relief Services. So we'll be taking those rice bowls and any money that you have from your Lenten sacrifices and give it to Catholic Relief Services. I think maybe at the end of the first week in May, something like that. And originally we said the end of April, but anyway, hopefully that was a good thing for some people in the parish to do that in the spirit of Lent. Catechists. Why did I write catechists? Maybe just thank you to all the catechists who worked this year, and thanks to Kelly and Beth for nurturing catechists. We're going to have our catechist dinner, appreciation dinner. I think it's Wednesday. I think it's this coming week. So I think they said we're going to, I forget the name of it, the fairly new Mexican place on North Claremont. It's going to reserve a bunch of seats for us to go, and that'll be good. First Communion practice is tonight. First Communion will be this weekend. I don't know the numbers. I know the confirmation numbers. There's 28 from St. James, and then 10 more from other parishes will join us because of calendaring things, and also because Rock Falls and Elk Mound, St. Joe's, they're both called St. Joe's, they join us for the confirmation every year. But First Communion, I don't know. Used to be like First Communion would be in the 40s and then confirmation would be in the 20s. I think we might even have more confirmation students this year than First Communion. So, I don't know. But I don't think it's more than 30. So, okay. Christine says we could really use someone who's organized, looking for a way to contribute to the parish that's in a very helpful, needed way. Would be to be part of the Summerfest organizing team. So last year they had a great team of 5 people. 3 of them rotated off. And so now it's Christine and Mickey. And as formidable as they are as organizers and spirited individuals, they said it's starting to feel like a lot for 2 people. So, what do you think? Think you might be up for that? They would certainly drive the... it's not like they'd plop something in your lap and say, go do this. It's definitely a team thing, and they're organized. And I guess what they're asking for is you'd be kind of an organized person, and that you would be available on the second weekend of August when Summerfest happens. So it could be a great thing. So if you or somebody you know might be able to help with that, that's a need right now. I had dinner with Father Shevs and Father Lindner and Father Karate, Father Jonkas, and former director of liturgy for the Archdiocese, Vicky, St. Paul. I think there's one more. God darn it. Oh, Father Greg from Altoona, yeah. So we had a nice dinner together. George gets us together for these Easter things. And why I brought that up was why. Oh, because I saw Father Karate, and I think maybe the next book club book that we'll do is, they've done it at the Newman Parish. I guess they read it, and he said it's just fantastic. Best book he's written. It's something about dealing with change and how we're going to go forward as church. And it's something like The Afternoon of Christianity by Thomas Halleck. I think is a Eastern European man. H-L-I-K. So if you want to, looking for a good book that Father Karate heartily recommends, that's it. And I think we may do that as our next book club book. I have to get a copy, make sure I can read it. Okay, how are we doing on time? All right, good. Walk for Virtues. Catherine of Siena's feast day was yesterday. Catherine of Siena is a great, great saint. I have a little icon of her. I didn't know where it was, so I would have brought it. She's a Dominican tradition. She kind of lived on her own, though. So she was kind of a hybrid of a hermit and a Dominican, I think. Lived in Siena. In 1970, she was named a Doctor of the Church, which is like a high. It's like, now you're not just a saint, but you're like a guiding light in terms of what you've written. And she, along with St. Teresa of Avila, were made Doctors of the Church by Pope Paul VI in 1970. So she's and most of her, what we have of her is her letters. And if you ever been to Racine, or have heard of the high school Racine St. Kate's, or have heard of the Dominican, Racine Dominicans, their mother house is called St. Catherine's, and it's for St. Catherine of Siena. And I did a retreat there some years ago. It's right on Lake Michigan. It's a little bit sad. It's one of these huge houses that just has like a handful of sisters left. And they put me, there's this huge house and nobody's living there. It's like this big dormitory. And I wanted this silent retreat for a week. And they put me in this room. And all night there's someone right above me talking on their phone all night. And I was like, why didn't I bring my earplugs? But I couldn't believe that with all that space, they put me in that room. So anyway, no offense, I don't mean to insult the sisters, but it's just a little error in planning, I think. But that's where I got exposed to the writings of. I thought, while I'm here, I'm going to read her letters. And so they had some in the library. And she wrote letters of all kinds, but a lot of them were challenging church hierarchy. There was this thing, she lived in the 14th century, and the popes back then were like kings and rulers, and they'd have wars and armies and stuff. And I don't know, this one guy was losing and he feared for his life, so he fled to Avignon, France. And then they said, well, he's not here, let's elect another pope. And so I think at one time there were 3 people that claimed to be the pope. But she was convinced that this Urban VI was the real pope, because he was the one with from Peter, we call it apostolic succession. And he was in France. And she's like, what are you doing in France? Get back to Rome. We need you in Rome, So she wasn't afraid to speak the truth to power. And she was very respected, apparently, because they listened to her, and he eventually came back. So there are a lot of instances, not maybe as many as there should be, where women have had a lot of power in the church, and I'm grateful for that. But I was thinking, as much as I admire her writing, and she'd always close her writings. I didn't bring one with me. I tried to print a letter. But she would say, and so, please, consider everything that I've said. I'm your humble servant. Then she would sign it like, Jesus, sweet Jesus love, Catherine. Had an interesting way to sign a note. Something very close to that, if not that. So her feast day was yesterday. That's why I'm thinking of her. But I was thinking about her. I thought, as much as I admire her, I wonder if in person I would have liked her. I don't know. Like St. Paul, I think he's an incredible mystic. I'm not sure I would have liked him in person. He sounded kind of arrogant and brash. I don't mean to sound like this guy who doesn't like a lot of people, because I basically like people. But it just made me think, what if these saints that I remember, if I just really didn't like them, then what? What would I say? Because, when you're living with them, you don't know they're going to be saints. There's one person I know that lives in Eau Claire that I think really is like a saint, and I don't see her often enough, and she's not at St. James. But anyway, I don't have that sense with most people. They're good people, but then I thought, well, what if so if maybe I wouldn't have liked a saint like St. Catherine or St. Paul, what about people now that maybe rankle me a little bit, or I don't naturally like? Again, I like people, but. And what if there's a saint? What if I'm not liking a saint? What if I'm irritated by a saint? Someone's going to be a saint, So it just made me think a little bit. You never know who you're talking to. Maybe we should. Sometimes we say it's more common to see Jesus in other people. That's good, but I mean, well, maybe the other people that we're talking to are really, basically saints, and that's maybe a little more relatable than their Jesus, but. Anyway, passing thought I'd share. Maybe it was interesting. The Pope process. I want to talk a little bit first, because I read this week. So many people in our country and our world since the internet have really been struggling with pornography. Okay, I don't usually talk about adult topics on the chat, but I was watching a YouTube video about, the struggle with that so many people have. And a video came up with Pope Francis and what he said about sexuality and pornography. And it was just beautiful. And I don't know if I never heard it, or at the time, I don't know, but it never stuck. And I thought, well, so I'm going to share what he said about that. It might be helpful to you. It's in the context of just this overarching view of sexuality that, like John Paul II articulated so well, but Pope Francis, in a really kind of down-to-earth way, he says that pornography undermines and robs people from experiencing God's gift of love. I mean, that's high stakes. I mean, what does God give us that's more precious than his love? And he's saying pornography undermines and robs people from experiencing God's gift of love. And he says, he's clear, he says, in Christianity, there's no condemnation of sexuality. You'll see some Christians that just think that all sexuality is bad or something. That's certainly not in our tradition. But it's just that, well, I'll go on. It can be used well as part of a wholesome, beautiful life, where it can enslave us. So anyway, he says sexual pleasure, which is a gift from God, is undermined by pornography. Satisfaction without relationship can generate a form of addiction, and that wouldn't be news to anybody. He said we must defend love of the heart, mind, and body, loving by giving oneself to another. This is the beauty of a sexual relationship. However, this beautiful dimension of our humanity, the dimension of love, is not without its dangers. I put three arrows by this, so I thought this is important. To love is to respect the other, to seek his or her happiness, to cultivate empathy for his or her feelings. Lust, on the other hand, pornography, poisons relationships. They display a sense of possessing another, using another, just for our own pleasure, lacking respect for the other, certainly no empathy for the other's feelings, lacking respect and a sense of limits. Lust, he says, it plunders, it robs, it consumes in haste. It does not want to listen to the other. So this could be in a real relationship, or it could be like pornography. Doesn't want to listen to the other, only wants its own pleasure. Lust judges every courtship, so getting to know another person, going out, dating, what do you like, just really getting to know a person. Courtship. Lust judges courtship as a bore. That's a good quote. Lust judges courtship as a bore. I just want my pleasure. I just want what I want. This whole other thing is just a bore. It does not seek that synthesis between reason, drive, and feeling that would help us live wisely and beautifully, A person full of lust seeks only shortcuts and adventure, does not understand that the road to love must be traveled slowly, with patience. And far from being boring, it allows us to make our loving relationships adventurous and happy. Lust is also dangerous because sexuality has a powerful voice. It involves all the senses. It dwells in both the body and the psyche. This is very beautiful, but if not disciplined with patience, if not inscribed in a relationship and in a story where two individuals transform it into a loving dance, it turns into a chain that deprives us from freedom. Are these good words? With every single person having a phone in their pocket nowadays, the dangers of being addicted are greater than ever. Building a life together, real love, is better than going on the hunt, he said. Cultivating tenderness is better than bowing to the demon of possession. True love is not possession, it is given. Serving is better than conquering. If there is no love, the Pope said, life is sad. It is sad loneliness. So we pray for our brothers and sisters who struggle with lustful addiction. And it's just good to be reminded of that beautiful vision we have that's positive of our sexuality and the need to not objectify people. All this, it's really scary. I just think the sense of patient love and getting to know people and empathizing. If we walk that slower road, we know that's a much more rewarding path, right? So we pray for freedom for all of our brothers and sisters. By the way, the Pope, he I've read so much of his writing these last 11 years, 12 years, 13 years, 12 years, I guess. I can kind of sniff it out when it's not him. A lot of things goes on the internet and it says it's like by him. And some of it's really pretty good. Like there's one that's going around now about how important nurses and hospital staff are because he was in the hospital. It's really beautiful. I don't see anything wrong with it, or he'd probably be very proud to be associated with it, but it wasn't him. I said, that doesn't sound like him. So then I go to Snopes.com or something. I did Pope Francis really right? And then I write a line from that letter. It said, no, there's no independent attestation that he wrote that other than it appearing in many Facebook posts. And so just, sometimes, but one was, and it's also a pretty good one, but it was all about God is, the sort of the message could have been, God is from, many different people see God from many different angles, but all the great religions, we all flow into one sea that is God. So it's like, and you kind of read it, it's beautiful in a way. It's tolerance and peace and walking together with people of other religions. And that's all good, and he would be for that, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't say all religions are the same. And I wonder if that wasn't put up there kind of maliciously, because his critics could say, yeah, that's his problem. He doesn't stand up for Christianity enough. He thinks we're all the same as others. But he didn't write that. And I think his point of view is that we need to meet people as people. We're all people, no matter what religion they are. We try to cooperate. We try to get along, be peaceable, and. But I'm sure he would say that Christ is the Son of God and the definitive revelation of who God is in the world, and he loved Jesus, right? And I think with some humility, he realized other people didn't grow up with that, and so we respect, but we wouldn't say that maybe they're all equal. The church teaching is that Christianity is the fullness of God's revelation because God became Jesus, and. Again, we understand that that's not everybody's belief, but if it is your belief, Christianity stands out. It's pretty impressive thing to believe in. So, anyway, I hope that makes sense. The Conclave, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie. I think it's fine. Some people didn't like it. They thought the ending was too bizarre. It's a movie, it's a movie. But it might get you in the mood for the Conclave. The Conclave is the cardinals locking themselves in the Sistine Chapel and visiting and voting for the next pope. There's 135. I did the math. I read in one place it had to be 2/3 plus one, and then I read somewhere else it had to be 2/3. So there's 135 voting cardinals. I think that means about 95 people have to vote for a single candidate. The first vote will be on Monday. So probably the time I do the chat next week, it'll be Habemus Papum. We have a pope. Who knows? I might try to make a list and cut up strips and have people pick out of a hat and see if anybody gets the winner. I remember very fondly and very well the last two popes that were elected. I was at St. Joe's in Menominee both times, and we saw it. It was because it was in the evening in Rome. We saw it during work hours on TV in the youth room. And I remember when Pope Francis was elected, because we had all these people that we thought might be elected. He wasn't on the list, And so I was like, well, who? Bergoglio. What was his name? What was it? And they said, then it came up on the screen, and we all went to the computer, tried to find something out about him, And I think the little one sentence summary of his life was that he was something like shoe leather. I don't know what the idiom is, but that he walked the streets. He knew the people of Buenos Aires, where he was the archbishop. That sounds good. We'll see what happens. And then he came out on the balcony in his white, not all the finery. And it's like, wow, all the commentators are, this is unusual. This isn't how they usually have more fancy clothes. And he just kind of, it was so unique and different. It was so endearing. He just kind of waved to people with his hand. And he said, buonasera, buonasera. It's like in Italian, hey, good evening. Hi, everybody. I just thought it was fantastic. And I saw one of his papal audiences, or that too, but his Sunday afternoon on the balcony, he would come out when I was on sabbatical, and he would say, have a good lunch. At the end, he'd say, okay, everybody, have a good lunch. It's like these simple pleasures. So tonight we'll be having a memorial mass at 7 o'clock. If you get this before that, you're welcome to come over for Pope Francis and our prayers for the conclave ahead. So could say more about him, obviously, but I thought it was just so beautiful what he wrote about sexuality and the dangers of pornography. So I wanted to share that with you. And now let's pray. For the conclave, we pray that the Holy Spirit guides all of our lives, but especially those 135 men who are going to vote for the next pope, that they be open to your Spirit's guidance, and that new life will come to the church, even as many of us grieve a lot, a loss of a pope who felt like a friend to us. So God bless you all. See ya. I'll let you watch this for a second.